Alright, this is the Simplifying Square Roots video, part 1. Alright, the steps to simplifying square roots are type the problem in the calculator. Okay. In order to do that, you will hit the second button and then the x squared button. If you look above the x squared button in purple, there is a little square root symbol, and that's why you hit the purple button. So you hit the purple second button and x squared, and the square root should pop up on your calculator. And then type in whatever the number is. If you get a whole number, then you're finished. That's the answer. So if you take square root of 100 and you get 10, 10's the answer, you're done. If you type it in and you get a decimal, then you have to follow the steps below. You have to make a factor tree, circle the pairs or buddies. The pairs or buddies come outside the square root. You underline the leftovers, and those stay inside the square root. Alright, so for example, first step, and this will save you a lot of time on the whole number answers. So put this in the calculator, hit second square root, or second x squared, 100 equals. Okay, the calculator will tell you the answer is 10. Well, that's the answer's 10. That's it. There's no square root. There's nothing to do. The square root of 100 is 10. The square root is the opposite of a square. So 10 squared, 10 times 10 is 100. Well, to work backwards, the square root of 100 is 10. So everything in math has an opposite. Multiply and divide are opposite. Add and subtract are opposites. Squares and square roots are opposites. So the square root of 100 is 10 because 10 times 10 is 100. So if this happens, if you get a whole number in the calculator, you're done. Example 2, in your calculator, hit second x squared, the little square root will pop up, put 36 equals. Okay, in the calculator, that would be 6, and that's it, you're done. Again, the square root of 36 is 6 because 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36, so they're opposites. 6 squared is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. Okay. Alright, example 3. In your calculator, hit second x squared, the square root house will pop up. Okay, and then put 20 in the calculator, and you will get 4.4721 blah 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 blah. You get a big old decimal. If this happens, this means that it's not a whole number answer, unlike 36 where 6 times 6 is 36. This isn't a perfect square. So this is where you have to follow the factor tree steps. So when you start factor treeing, you're looking for two numbers that divide into 20. I always like to start with 2. If 2 doesn't work, try 3. If 3 doesn't work, try 5. If 5 doesn't work, try 7. Okay? If 7 doesn't work, jump to 11, then 13, then 17. These are prime numbers. Okay, but I like to start with 2, 3, 5, 7. Okay? Because to me that's easier. You don't have to. You could do 20 is divisible by 4 and 5. Okay, I'm going to start with 2 though. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Once I break a number down like this, I like to scratch it out. That way when I go to circle my numbers, I'm not tempted to circle 20. Because I don't have 20 anymore. 2 times 10 is 20. Okay, 2 is prime. 10 is not, so 10 divides to be 2 and 5. 2 times 5 is 10. Again, I like to scratch out my numbers as I go. Alright, in order to come out of the square root, you have to have a pair. Okay, you have to have a buddy, because the same thing where 6 squared equals 36, so the square root of 36 is 6. You have to have a buddy, you have to have a pair, because the square root is the opposite of a square. Okay, so you're buddying them up and you're finding the pairs that can be squared together. All right, so in order to come out and play, you have to have a buddy. If you have no buddy, then you have to stay inside the house and pout. You don't get to go outside and play. It's not safe. Okay, so these 2s can be buddied up. They can come outside and play. And this 5 has to stay inside and pout. He has no buddy, so he's not allowed to go outside. Okay, so the 2s will come outside, and the 5 will stay inside. When I bring the 2s out, I bring them out as one pair of 2s. So I bring out 1, 2. Okay? Same thing, square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 36 is not 6 times 6, which is 36. Okay? So when you circle your pairs, you only bring out a 2. All right, example 4. Okay? In your calculator, hit second x squared, and the little square root house will pop up, and then it will 300, and it will tell you it's 17.32 blah 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 blah. Okay? If that happens, then you need to go into your factor tree. Lots of things divide into 300, 3 and 100, 30 and 10. There's all kinds of options here. Again, I just like to start with 2. It doesn't really matter. Okay? So that'll be 2 and 150. 150 divides by 2 and 75, or I could have done 10 and 15, or okay. 75 breaks down not by 2, so let's try 3. That'll be 3 and 25. 25 breaks down to 5 and 5. Okay, again, not all factor trees have to look the same. So if I did the exact same numbers, but I started with something different, let's say I did 3 and 100 to start out with. That's fine. Then 100, I could do 2 and 50. Okay, 50. I could do 5 and 10. I could have done 2 and 25. 10 could be 5 and 2. Okay, so these factor trees don't look exactly the same. Okay, but when I go to circle my pairs should be the same. I should end up with the same stuff. So even though you and your neighbor's factor tree might not look exactly the same, okay, as long as you both did them right, you should come up with the same answer. Again, in order to come out of the square root house, you have to have a buddy. If you have no buddy, you have to stay inside and pout. So these 2s can get buddied up. These 5s can get buddied up. And then this 3 is left out. Again, this is why I like to mark out these numbers as I go. That way I'm not tempted to circle or underline any of those numbers. Okay, I'm only looking at my prime numbers. Okay, so 2 can come out. 5 can come out, and 3 has to stay inside and pout. So 2 times 5 is on the outside, which is really 10, and then square root 3 is on the inside. Same thing if I come over here and look at my other factor tree. I do have a pair of 5s. I do have a pair of 2s, even though they're not next to each other. Okay? Now that's one of the reasons I prefer to go by 2 and then 3 and then 5. All your pairs end up right next to each other. But you don't have to. Okay? And this 3 does not get paired up. So we have 2 and 5 on the outside, and 3 stayed inside and pouting. They're not allowed to go out and play. So 2 times 5 is 10, square root 3. So I get the same answer either way. So again, your factor trees don't have to be exactly the same. All right, 108. In your calculator, put second x squared, and then 108, and you will get 10.39 blah, 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 blah. Okay, that means you need to go into factor tree. Okay, so 108 is divisible by, okay, and that would be 54. Cross out 108. 2 is prime, but 54 is not, so 54 can be divided by 2 again because it's even. So 54 divided by 2 is 27. And then break 27 down. That's divisible by 3. So it'll be 3 and 9. 3 is prime, but 9's not. So 9 can be broke down to 3 and 3. Okay? Again, I do not have to do this exact same factor tree. There are other things that go into 108. Okay? So I could have started with 4, and that would have been 27. 27 breaks down to 3 and 9, but 4 also breaks down. Okay, you have to break down everything that's not prime, so I need to break that down to a 2 and a 2. Okay, that's one of the mistakes people make when they don't start with 2, 3, or 5. They start with a bigger number and then they forget to break it down, but you have to break the 4 down. 2's prime, 2's prime, 3's prime, but 9 is not, and that'll break down to 3 and 3. Especially in a factor tree like this, it is important to cross out your numbers as you go. It is very tempting to start circling this 9 or this 4 because your factor tree is kind of all over the place. Okay, circle your pairs. So the 2's are a pair. Now these 3's, there's 3 of them. I can only circle pairs. A square root is the opposite of a square, so I can only pair them up. If I circle a group of 3 numbers, that's a cubed root, which is the opposite of a cube. So we're only circling groups of 2. This 3 does not get circled. Okay, he wasn't picked in the group of 3's. He has to stay inside and pout. The other 3's get to go outside and play. So we have a 2 outside, we have a 3 outside, and we have that poor 3 staying inside and pouting. So 2 times 3 is 6, square root 3. Over here on my first factor tree, these 2's get paired up, 3's get paired up, and this 3 gets left out. Okay, so again, 2 comes out, 3 comes out, and the other 3 is staying inside and pouting. 2 times 3 is 6, square roots of 3.